and welcome back everyone to English for Specific Purposes Level B1. We are your hosts. I am Mr. Daryl.
And I'm Ms. Thათია.
Today we are going to talk about tourism.
გამარჯობათ, მე თათია ვარ, ეს კი დერილია. კეთილი იყოს თქვენი დაბრუნება ჩვენს ტელესკოლაში. დღევანდელი გაკვეთილის თემა ტურიზმია. Let's get started.
Let's do it. First, let's talk about the agenda. We will introduce the topic of tourism, introduce some vocabulary that are related to tourism, and then move on to the reading section, which we have selected for you. After that, we will look at the grammar, and the grammar today is modal verbs regarding obligation and advice. From there, we will summarize everything and move on to our homework question for you.
დღევანდელი გაკვეთილი დაიწყება მოკლე შესწავლით. შემდეგ შევისწავლით ახალ სიტყვებს. შემდეგ წავიკითხავთ ტექსტს, ამას მოყვება გრამატიკული სავარჯიშოები, შემდეგ შევაჯამებთ და დავასრულებთ ყველასათვის საყვარელი საშინაო დავალებით. Okay, we said that the topic is tourism, right?
Yes, Ms. Thათია.
And I think it's very, very interesting topic. We are going to read a very interesting text, learn some vocabulary related to tourism, and I think that the lesson will be very, very interesting for everyone.
I agree, Ms. Thათია.
Okay, Mr. Daryl, generally, do you like traveling?
I do love traveling. In fact, I'm in Georgia because of the travel opportunities that I get to see all over this country.
Yeah, I also love traveling very much, although I haven't had many opportunities to travel, but I think that I will have a few very soon.
Well, you're lucky to live in Georgia where you can travel to all parts of the country, and all parts of the country are scenic and beautiful.
And Mr. Daryl, can you think of your most memorable trip?
Yeah, I would say when I went to London, that was fascinating. I loved seeing a lot of things that I'd only seen before on movies, in movies and on TV. It was great to see it in person.
That's great, so interesting.
What about yourself?
Yeah, I haven't had, but I think I will have one in future. Let's get started with the vocabulary. And the first word we have is queue.
Mm-hmm.
Queue is a noun, and in Georgian it means rigi. Mr. Daryl, can you define the word queue for us?
Sure. A queue is a lineup of people, usually at a shopping mall or a shop or a bank, where they're waiting for their turn to go up.
And do you like standing in the queue and waiting?
No, I don't actually. I will avoid a shop if there's a queue. In fact, I'd rather go to a shop where there are no queues.
Yes, I also hate waiting in the queues. It's the worst thing, especially if you are in a hurry, right?
It wastes a lot of time,
Yes,
I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, queue, rigi. Queue, rigi. So let's together.
Queue.
And our next word is aisle. Aisle is a noun, and in Georgian it means koridori derepani. Mr. Daryl, can you define the word for us?
Yes, I can. An aisle is a passageway where you can walk, usually between rows of seats, maybe in a theater, maybe on an airplane, maybe in various locations. That's an aisle.
And do you like aisle seats or window seats?
On an airplane. Yeah, on an airplane. That's a good question, actually. I prefer window seats. I find aisle seats are a bit too complicated as far as other people getting up and going and sitting down while you are at the aisle seat.
Personally, I prefer aisle seats because I'm really scared to look out of the window. Okay, so aisle is a noun, and in Georgian it is koridori derepani. Aisle, koridori derepani. And together, aisle. And our next word is boarding pass. Boarding pass is a noun, and in Georgian it is ჩასხდომის ბარათი. Mr. Daryl, can you define the word for us?
Sure. Boarding pass is a card or some other small piece of document which you need to get onto a plane or perhaps a train sometimes, and without it you wouldn't be able to get on.
Yeah, sure. And I think that you should be very careful not to lose it, because without it, you won't be able to board the plane, right?
It's almost as important as your passport sometimes.
Yeah. So boarding pass is a noun, and in Georgian it is ჩასხდომის ბარათი. Boarding pass, ჩასხდომის ბარათი. Together?
Boarding pass.
And the next word is duty-free. Duty-free is a noun, and in Georgian it is საბაჟო გადასახადით ან მოსაკრებელით დაუბეგრავი. Mr. Derill, can you define the word for us?
Sure, duty-free, very popular with travelers. These are a place where this is a place where you can buy goods for cheaper than usual because you don't pay any taxes.
Yes, I know, and I always look forward to going to the duty-free shops to buy a few things for cheap prices. So duty-free is a noun, and in Georgian it is საბაჟო გადასახადით ან მოსაკრებელით დაუბეგრავი. Duty-free, საბაჟო გადასახადით ან მოსაკრებელით დაუბეგრავი. Together?
Duty-free.
And our next word is overweight. Overweight is an adjective, and in Georgian it is ჩვეულებრივზე მძიმე. Mr. Derill, can you give us the definition of the word?
Sure, another word important for traveling. You never want to be overweight with your luggage. This is when something is more than the weight that it should be.
Yes, you should keep to the limit, right?
Yeah, or you pay a fine.
Yes, I think so. So overweight is an adjective, and in Georgian it is ჩვეულებრივზე მძიმე. Overweight, ჩვეულებრივზე მძიმე. Let's repeat. Overweight. And I think that we have finished with the words, right?
We have finished.
But now we have to check how well we remember the words. For that we have an exercise, right? ეხლა კი გადავიდეთ ლექსიკურ სავარჯიშოზე. ეკრანზე გამოჩნდება სიტყვის განმარტებები და ჩვენ უნდა მივხვდეთ, რომელი სიტყვა შეესაბამება ამ განმარტებას. Okay, now let's start. So the first definition is the following. The place where goods are cheaper than usual price because you don't pay tax on them. Yes, we've talked about it, and I think that it was a duty-free. Duty-free shop, right? And
Yes,
we
it
are
is.
right. Okay.
Perfect. Let's go with the next one now. What, Ms. Tatya, is something that is heavier than it should be?
I think that I know, because we said that we should be careful with it and we should keep to the limit, and it was overweight. The word is an adjective and it means something heavier than should be.
Perfect.
Okay, now let's have a try. So a line of people waiting for something in a shop or in a similar place. And we both said that we hated standing and waiting in the queues, so the answer is queue.
And that is the answer.
Yeah.
Let's go on to the next one. Now, Ms. Tatya, what is a passageway between rows of seats on a plane?
So I think that the word here is aisle. So
Perfect.
aisle is a passage between rows of seats on a plane.
You're right. You prefer aisle seats, but I prefer window seats.
Yeah.
And the last one, which is obvious, but let us say it anyway. A card that each passenger has to show before they are allowed to get on a plane or a ship.
A very important thing. And this is a boarding pass, as we remember, right?
Well done. Now let's move on to the vocabulary specific to the reading task that we have before you.
როგორც მოგეხსენებათ, ეხლა კითხვის დავალებაზე უნდა გადავიდეთ. ამისათვის საჭიროა რამოდენიმე სიტყვა შევისწავლოთ, რომელიც ტექსტი უფრო უკეთესად გავიგოთ. Okay, so the first word we have is team building. Team building is a noun, and in Georgian it means გუნდის ჩამოყალიბება. Mr. Derill, can you define the word for us?
I'd love to. It's a very important word. It's the process by which cooperation and a better, steadier foundation for working together is built up in a staff of an office or colleagues in an office.
Great. So team building is a noun, and in Georgian it means gundis chamoqalibeba. Team building, gundis chamoqalibeba. Together?
Team building.
Our next word is headquarters. Headquarters is a noun, and in Georgian it means tavari office, tavari samartho. So what about the definition?
The definition? Sure. Headquarters is the location where a company has its main office, its main place where it puts everything together.
So headquarters in Georgian is tavari office. Headquarters, tavari office. Together?
Headquarters.
Our next word is outsourcing. Outsourcing is a noun, and in Georgian it means kvekontraktირება. Can you define the word for us, Mr.
Sure. Outsourcing is when a company uses the services of an outside company to do a certain work that it perhaps doesn't have the time to do or is not suited for doing. And usually it contracts with a company that is an expert in that work.
Yeah, it's clear now because I have always thought about this word. Now it's clear. Thank you. Outsourcing in Georgian means kvekontraktírება. Outsourcing, kvekontraktírება. Together?
Outsourcing.
And the next word is negotiate. Negotiate is a verb, and in Georgian it means მოლაპარაკებების წარმოება. Mr. Derill, can you define the word for us?
Sure. Negotiate is when you arrive at some kind of formal agreement with another company or another person using a process of discussions and so on.
I think that we have to negotiate every day, sometimes with our family members, sometimes at work. So I think that this is a very important skill. Right?
Excellent point.
So negotiate in Georgian is მოლაპარაკებების წარმოება. Negotiate, მოლაპარაკებების წარმოება. Together?
Negotiate.
And the next word is corporate event. Corporate event is a noun, and in Georgian it means კორპორატიული ღონისძიება.
The meaning of corporate event is an event that a corporation puts together for its staff for any number of reasons. It could even be for the end of year Christmas party. It could be
Which
for training.
We all love,
yes,
right? And we are looking forward to that.
Yep.
So corporate events is a noun, and in Georgian it is კორპორატიული ღონისძიება. Corporate events, კორპორატიული ღონისძიება. Together?
Corporate event.
And our last word is trade fair. Trade fair is a noun, and in Georgian it means სავაჭრო ბაზრობა. Mr. Derill, can you help me with the definition?
I'd love to. Trade fair is another reason why you would need to travel, because it's an event held somewhere in a large city often, where companies can go and show their products.
So trade fair is a noun, and in Georgian it is სავაჭრო ბაზრობა. Trade fair, სავაჭრო ბაზრობა. Together?
Trade fair.
And now I think that we are ready to read the text. But before we read the text, I think that we have to discuss a few points.
Yeah.
Mr. Derill, what do you like about business trips?
I think the best thing about business trips is the fact that you can meet your co-workers and companies that you're going to work with face to face, and that's very important. I mean, you could always have online meetings, but face to face, extremely important.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the thing I like about business trips is that you can meet a lot of people from the same area where you're working. But I don't like the thing that sometimes you are on a business trip, then you return back and you have to go on working again. And sometimes it's really, really tiring, right?
Yeah, that's right. But you do get, as you mentioned, networking opportunities.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes. And the next question is, what is the most valuable thing you can get from a business trip? And I think that we both agree that this is kind of new contacts, finding new contacts, isn't it?
Yes, I would say that networking, where else would you be able to meet that many contacts in one place? Usually at a hotel, right? Usually at a hotel and at the conference room and so on.
Yes.
I think it's really useful for businesses.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now let's read a very interesting text about business trips and let's get more information about it.
Definitely.
So, in the 21st century, there are different reasons to make business trips. In the global economy, a company might have its headquarters in France, but outsource production to another city like Japan and find some technical support in India. It is also possible that a Korean company might contract out to one factory in China and another in Oslo. In any case, if you are working for an international company, you will have to make lots of business trips to make the right decision on production facilities, negotiate prices, and you might have to attend different business meetings with your potential clients, colleagues, or companies. Other reasons to make a business trip might be to attend different conferences, corporate events, exhibitions, trade fairs, and team building weekends.
To make your travel easy, there are a few things you should remember. First of all, remember to pack your suitcase carefully and don't take things that you don't need that might cause you trouble when you check your suitcase in. Overweight luggage might waste your time and money, as you must pay extra for this. It is even better if you pack everything in a carry-on suitcase, which does not need to be checked in. Make sure you go to the airport early to avoid long queues. You should be at the airport at least 2 hours early. It is better if you do an online check-in and print your boarding pass in advance. This will save you lots of time. For the security check, you might have to remove your shoes and belt, take out your laptop, and place them on the scanner. Remember, you have to charge your laptop beforehand, as they will ask you to turn it on.
After that, you must find your gate on the information board. Once you know your gate, if you have some time left, you can visit the duty-free to buy some souvenirs. You might want to eat something too before getting on the plane. After a short break, you should recheck your flight status on the screen. If it says go to the gate, you need to show yourself at your gate and wait for boarding. When boarding starts, you should show your boarding pass and find your seat. Flight attendant has to show you safety instructions. You will have to fasten your safety belt and wait for the plane to take off. I think that we have finished with the text. It was really informative text with a lot of valuable information. But now we have to check how well we remember what we've read, okay? ახლა კი გადავიდეთ კითხვის დავალებაზე. ეკრანზე გამოჩნდება წინადადებები და ჩვენ უნდა განსაზღვროთ, რამდენად შეესაბამება ეს წინადადებები სიმართლეს. თუ წინადადება სიმართლეს შეესაბამება, მაშინ უნდა ვთქვათ true. თუ წინადადება არ შეესაბამება სიმართლეს, მაშინ უნდა ვთქვათ false. Let's get started. The first statement is, it's always a good idea to travel light. Mr. Derill, what do you think?
Ms. Thataia, I think that is true.
And you are right. It's true because we read in the text. First of all, remember to pack your suitcase carefully. Do not take things you do not need, and because you trouble when you check in your suitcase.
Ms. Thataia, the next question is, if your baggage is not overweight, you have to pay extra. Is this true or false?
I think that it must be false. Let's check.
Let's check.
It's false. I'm right, because I remember that we read overweight luggage might waste your time and money as you must pay extra for this.
Excellent.
And now let's look at the next statement. And the next statement is you can only check in at the airport. What do you think? Is it right or wrong?
You know what? I've traveled quite a bit, and that's false.
And you know it for sure. And I also agree with you. It's false, because in the text we read, it's better if you do online check and print your boarding pass in advance. So we were right. We can move on to the next sentence. And here it is.
Here's the next sentence. People go on business trips only for conferences.
Oh no, I remember it for sure that they go on business trips for different reasons. So this is false, and I will tell you why. Here it is. Other reasons to make a business trip might be different conferences, corporate events, exhibitions and trade fairs, or even team building meetings. So it was false. Okay.
Now we move on to our grammar section, and we are talking about modal verbs regarding obligation and advice.
ეხლა კი გრამატიკის დავალებაზე გადავიდეთ. ეკრანზე ვხედავთ წინადადებებს. მოდი გავარჩიოთ ეს წინადადებები.
We have 3 sentences on our screen, and they express 3 different modal verbs. The first one says, you should be at the airport at least 2 hours early. The second sentence says, overweight luggage might waste your time and money as you must pay extra for this. And the third sentence says, you will have to fasten your safety belt and wait for the plane to take off.
As I can guess, the words which are highlighted are called modal verbs. Now let's see how they are used in a sentence.
We use should to give or ask for advice or an opinion in the present. An example would be, you should go to see a doctor if you are sick. Have to, on the other hand, is used to show that a person is obliged to do something, usually by an outside force. Have to can also be used to give your opinion. Joe has to go to the corporate event. And must. Must is also used to talk about obligation and is used in written rules and instructions. Here's an example. You must fasten your seatbelt. Must is also used to give a strong recommendation. Here's an example. You must tell him before it's too late. To form negative sentences, we add not to the modal verbs should and must. You should not go to work if you are sick, and you must not be late for work. To form the negative sentence, we use auxiliary verb do plus not plus have to. You do not have to wear a uniform today. To form the interrogative sentence, we start the sentence with the auxiliary verb do plus the subject plus the modal verb. Here's an example. Do you have to be here?
Okay, I think that we have finished with grammar instructions. Now we have to move on to the exercise. გადავიდეთ გრამატიკის დავალებაზე. ეკრანზე თქვენ დაინახავთ წინადადებებს გამოტოვებული ადგილით. უნდა შევეცადოთ სწორი მოდალური ზმნა შევურჩიოთ წინადადებას.
Great.
Okay, let's look at the first sentence. You blank remember to close the office when you leave. What do you think? Which modal verb can go here?
Must.
Okay, let's check. Yes, you are right. You must remember to close the office when you leave because this is mandatory. It's very important. It's kind of a rule, right? That's why we use must here. And the second sentence is, I, then blank, visit Paris every weekend for business, but I really enjoy it. So what do you think can go here?
I would guess have to.
Maybe yes. Let's check. Yes, you're right. I have to visit Paris every weekend for business, but I really enjoy it. This is kind of extrinsic obligation, right?
This person has to do this, but she enjoys it.
Yeah. Let's move on. And here we have I blank Then in brackets we have not. Write this report today. So what do you think can go here?
Ms. Thათია, I guess have to. So have to in the negative form.
Yeah, let's check. I don't have to write this report today. Let's move on, and we have the next sentence with a blank space in front, then you, then again blank, attend the conference. It's a question, for sure. So what do you think, what can go in the gaps, Mr. Derill?
We'll need the auxiliary verb, and I think we'll need the modal verb have to.
Let's check. So do you have to attend the conference? So you're so good at grammar.
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay, I think that we have come to an end, and it's time to summarize what we've learned. Mr. Derill, can you do it?
We'll definitely do so. We looked at vocabulary for the lesson on the topic of tourism. We had our reading text on business trips, and we had our grammar on modal verbs connected to obligation and advice.
მოდი ერთად შევაჯამოთ ჩვენი გაკვეთილი. გაკვეთილის დასაწყისში ჩვენ გავეცანით ახალ სიტყვებს. შემდეგ წავიკითხეთ ტექსტი. შემდეგ კი ვისაუბრეთ გრამატიკაზე. Now it's time for homework. And what do we have for homework, Mr. Derill?
We have a question, and it is the following. Write a paragraph about conference facilities.
Oh, very interesting. But where can they upload the homework, Mr. Derill?
They can upload the homework to the address that they see on the screen.
And I think that the modal is also provided there.
Yes, you can go there as well for the model answer.
So, Derill, I think that we have to finish this lesson, right?
Yeah, unfortunately. But we're looking forward to next time when we will do tourism.
Of course, a very interesting topic, again, tourists. So, see you next time. Bye.
Bye, everyone.